Hello, friend. It's Mark out in the back 40. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how the shape of a food plot can help influence the movement of a deer as we continue on the series on trying to build their patterns to go past your blind. The last episode, we talked about building a pattern. We specifically were talking about on my property here, our west blind. If you can see way over on the middle left-hand side of this right here where I'm clicking, you can see that right here is the west blind. And we talked about up in the upper left-hand corner here, I created a lot of bedding up in here. And then down to the south of us here, and I'll scroll up so you can see, is a farm field right here that's always got corn or soybeans in it. And so what I have done over time is created a pattern for them to go north and south right here. And the kicker was to try to draw them close to my west blind with a lane here that had some food planted in it, but also a licking branch and a water hole. And they are about 17 or 18 yards away from my blind here. And so I've harvested a few nice bucks, what I think are nice bucks for me. I was very satisfied. So I harvested them. So that was because it took a few years to develop the bedding up in the northwest corner here, to develop trails that get them coming down through here. And I think the most important thing is that I learned to, after Labor Day, stay off the property. There's no reason, zero reason, because we went with zero tolerance for any kind of human scent or bumping the deer around on our property after Labor Day. Zero tolerance. I think that has had the biggest influence on getting some more mature bucks. To me, they're more mature. Anything 2.5 or older on my property, based on the last 20 years, that's a mature buck for this property. And, I hope to make it more and more. But anyway, so that was the last video. I suppose I could have just told you, go watch the last video. But what I want to talk about this time is something that I did up at our north blind. And so I'm going to pull this down here a little bit, and hopefully I don't mess things up. But in addition to the licking branch, water hole, trails, cover that can help guide and direct deer, the shape of a food plot can help position deer in a spot that you want them to go. And I guess I'll kind of review how I came about doing this one. You can see this is the Sahara. We call this our Sahara food plot. It kind of looks like an hourglass. And I didn't come up with this idea on my own. I don't think any of these things I come up with on my own. These are all coming from other people, and then maybe I get experience with them and figure out what actually works and doesn't work. Because everything people say on YouTube, not all of it works. But anyways, I found a book back in 2003 by Neil and Craig Doherty, and they are with North Country Whitetails. So here's the book. 20 years ago, there was no YouTube. So how did you get information on how to manage your property? Well, you had to go find a consultant somewhere, or you had to find a book. And there weren't many books like this because it was kind of a new thing back then, or magazines and that kind of stuff. There wasn't no YouTube. YouTube's fantastic. We're all so lucky and so blessed to have YouTube now that we can get all kinds of information. Our learning curve has been compressed so much, and I hope you're taking advantage of that. But and I'm just hoping that I'm helping you with some of that learning curve, and then all the other guys that you're watching too. So, but what this video is really trying to get you to understand is that the shape of a food plot can influence where a deer goes. And so I'll just tell you, there are a lot of different shapes in this book, and I'll go over a few of them. But I'm going to go over the hourglass one right here because I have experience with this. I have had this food plot for probably 15 years in this shape, and I'll tell you the theory when I put it in there, and then the reality, what's going on, and what I would do if I were starting all over. How's that sound? So let's zoom in a little bit on this, and I hope I don't mess this up because I'm really not good at this stuff. Stuff takes off on me. So and I wanted to go out on the property. It's really frustrating to me right now. It's mid-February in Michigan, and it's about 25-mile-an-hour winds out there right now. So that's terrible. And the other thing is that the snow has had a crust of ice on it for about a month now. So if I were to go on the property to record this, the audio would be awful. And I'm impatient, and I wanted to do another video. I've been waiting for like 3 or 4 weeks to do a video. Finally, I'm like, forget it. I'm just going to do it. So, yeah, anyways, you probably really didn't care about that. So, anyways, so this is an Hourglass food plot. So when I read the book by these guys, the concept was this, and if you can watch my pointer, the concept is this. The middle of the Hourglass, this is the concentration area, because theoretically what happens is deer enter one side of this food plot, and especially bucks, there's a natural curiosity for them to want to see what's on the other side. So this opening right here is probably maybe 10 yards. And on the left here is about a half-acre section, and on the right here is about a half-acre section. And the idea is that anything enters in here, they will stop in either side they come out into. They'll eat for a while, but then a natural curiosity somewhere deep inside them makes them want to go to the other side to see what's over here. And I'll tell you, for the most part, it works very well. I would guess that probably 70% of the deer that come out into either one of these sides goes through this throat right here. So the idea was, on both sides of this throat, you would set up a blind or a stand. And so, you know, right in this area, like right here, you would set up a stand, and right here you would set up a stand, kind of depending on the wind. And it works very, very well. So after 10, 15 years now, what I have found has happened is, maybe I'll back up a second. Sorry, I'm going all over the place. But this, when you knock all this down and make this Hourglass, you pinch this area a little bit. You do leave a little bit of opening, so it makes them want to come over and see and go through here. And then the spur through here, you know, the middle of the Hourglass here and then down through here has to be very impassable. You don't want deer to want to be able to go through here. And so when I knocked all these trees down on each side, I did pile them up into these areas here. And here we are 15 years later. They've kind of settled down. And now the deer are starting. There's a trail that goes right through here on this south side. And there's also a trail where those buggers are coming. You know, they're bedding over here to the right. And I don't know if you can see a bunch of the trees knocked down in here. They bed here. When they get up, they come through here, they hit our water hole right here, and then they're sneaking through. They have a trail that goes on the back side like this now. They'll go either way because all this is rotted away, and so I should reinforce that again to force them to go around here. But I don't want them to go around there anymore because, 2 videos ago I talked about I hunt the perimeter now. I don't allow myself to go there. So, I mean, our north blind is up here, and I'm actually allowing them to continue to travel through here. And, you know, this corridor right here is a shooting lane, and we're getting great action here. This is where Janice, go back and look at the videos from Firearm Opener. Janice shot 2 bucks within a half an hour, 45 minutes right here. They're cruising right through here. But the bucks cruise through this bedding area over here, this bedding area. Oh, there we go. So the deer do bed, and you can see some of the logs that are down right here in this area here, and then also on this side over here. And they each bed there. There'll be a group of does in each of those spots. They'll each come out into their respective side of the food plot, and then the bucks come through and cruise this area to try to check everything out. So has the food plot worked like it was designed? I'd say pretty well. It does influence the direction they move, and it does influence them to go through this throat. Now, there are more shapes that you can do to influence where they travel, because I did have blinds in these areas, but I took them down because I felt like I was spooking too many deer off of the plot, and they would almost circle around me and get my scent. So the concept was great. The execution for my property here in Michigan with lots of pressure, and it's only 42 acres, 0 tolerance for spooking deer, so I couldn't be there anymore. So I moved everything out of there. But there are other shapes too. So here I don't know if you can, maybe I'll do, you know what, I'll do a picture of these, and I'll throw a picture on, I'll cut it in right here. But this Hourglass food plot, you can kind of see their notes from this book on that. And maybe you should go buy this book if it seems still available. There's a lot of good stuff in this book. Another one that I really like is their boomerang shaped food plot. Now, I have not had a chance to build one of those on my property, but if I sit there and look and think about how the deer move on this food plot, I would almost like a V. I would say almost like a V or a boomerang is how I would make it. And your blind would be at the well, I guess I'd go this way, the bottom of the V. And your blind would be on the outside portion of the V. And what I would do is I would put a licking branch on the inside portion of the V, and I would maybe even consider putting a water hole right close to that too. And the inside of that V would be, if you want to bow hunt out of it, I would put it at your maximum range. If you're maybe in that 40 or 50 yards away, that's what I would shoot for. If you're only going to gun hunt out of it, or maybe with a crossbow where your range might be 50 to 60 yards, then take that into consideration. The further away you can be from that point, the better, because less chance of spooking deer. But you'll still also want to have a good shot and a good look at it. So I think my opinion would be the ultimate would be that V-shaped, boomerang-shaped blind on the bottom of the V, put the licking branch in the food plot, but just hanging right over the edge of the food plot. Man, those buggers are gonna, and then the inside of the V, you would brush that up pretty good so they cannot see to the other side of that food plot, and maybe even make it thick so it's hard for them to travel and cut across the V. You want them to come down to the bottom of the V and then go back around to the other side of the food plot, or at least look and see. I think a plot like that would just be, oh my gosh, it'd just be fantastic. But they have a few other food plot shapes in here too, and here's one they call the long S, and I guess I kind of have a long S, and I'll tell you what I think about that one. I'm going to try not to mess this recording up. Let's go this way. You can see right here, this food plot where I'm pointing right here, this is kind of what I would call a long S. And it does parts of it influence where and how deer move. And but I don't think nearly as much as the Hourglass or the Boomerang, because deer will come out in all different areas of this thing, and they tend to wander into this bigger area right here. And even if they come out up over here, or they come out over here, they'll hang out in the end of this one because there's a lot of close cover, and they will go through this throat. And that throat isn't, that's probably 20 yards wide, so it's not like it's real skinny. And then they'll come into this a little bit too, but they like to stay kind of close here. So I think a long winding S snake plot that is maybe, I think the idea is two things. Number one is it's 20 yards wide around, so they're only about 2 bounds away from getting into cover. It makes them feel comfortable. And then the other thing is to make it curved enough so that they can't see to the other side. They can't see the whole length of the food plot. They would have to move in that food plot to be able to see down the other edge of the food plot. And again, then that's where you think and you use your human brain, which is smarter than their brain. You use your brain to set up your blinds based on that. And so let's look at another one here. Here's a long rectangular one. I think my opinion on that is if you keep it thin enough, that can work pretty well. Maybe 20, 25 yards wide is only the wider that I would make it. And I don't know, you could probably make it maybe 100 yards long. These plots, the bucks hopefully will come out in there. Again, you put licking branches, a couple of them around the outside of it, put that water hole licking branch where your blind is in your range, and make sure the wind is right and you can hunt that. They'll move down through those two. I'm not sure they'll be quite as comfortable as some of the ones that we talked about already, but that'll work good. And then here they call it a corner, comfortable corner, but I think it's the same concept as a boomerang. So anyways, I think as you're sitting here in the wintertime thinking about your blinds, you're thinking about things that you're going to do. Maybe you have a new property. Maybe you're thinking about putting in a new food plot. If I were to do a brand new food plot, I would do the V-shaped one, or the boomerang, number one. Number two, I would do the Hourglass. Why do I pick the V shape over the Hourglass? Because the Hourglass forces you to put your blind too close to the food plot. You kind of got to, you've got the edges of the food plot. Again, maybe I'm going to zoom in here a little bit to tell you what I'm talking about. Hang in there with me. So if you want to have a good bow shot, you've got this shape here. Your blind, you could have a blind here or a blind here to get a shot at something that goes through this throat up here. But they could also travel down into here and be too close to you and bust you. That's why I would rather have a V-shaped plot, and that would allow you to be way more safe from getting busted and still get them into position. And you could still really get all the benefits of a hourglass shape like this, because you have two areas that two different groups of deer could be in at the same time and not see each other and not stress each other out. And that buck is still going to come into that food plot. He's going to travel to the tip. He's going to hit the water. He's going to hit the licking branch. He's going to look at the other side, and that's where you're going to get your shot. And then he's going to move on. So that's my opinion about food plot shapes. Think about it. If you have any questions, let me know. The book that, I mean, maybe there's other guys on there that have talked about shapes. I guess I'm not sure I've seen anybody talking about food plot shapes before. But I don't know if this is still active. I mean, this is almost 20 years ago. It's northcountrywhitetails.com. Maybe the book is still available and you can get more about the shapes. I guess I don't want to give all their stuff away because they probably have some of this stuff copyrighted. But think about it. And I appreciate you watching. Any questions, throw them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them before work some morning. Thanks.